Molly. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, thank you for joining us today. Molly is the executive director of the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. And I just would love for you to explain kind of what the EDC does.
Yes. So the Boone EDC, we are a public-private nonprofit. We work with the county and many of the municipalities here in Boone County, as well as utilities and private investors in the Boone EDC. And our goal at the end of the day is to bring in new businesses to Boone County and help the existing businesses grow. So that looks a little bit differently depending on who we're working with or what our goal is. We focus in on 3 core competency areas. The first is traditional economic development. So that's actually bringing in the businesses. That includes small business and entrepreneurship. And then we also have a project manager in charge of workforce and community development efforts. So we kind of hit on a variety of aspects that impact our community's ability to attract new companies here.
Right. So new companies of all sizes, because you said small businesses as well.
Correct. Yeah, so small businesses make up almost 80% of Boone County's businesses.
Right.
And there are different definitions over what a small business is. We generally kind of look at less than 5 million in revenue and fewer than 30 employees. But again, it depends on whose definition you want to use for those efforts. But yeah, small businesses are definitely included in that and incredibly important to our economy.
So if people were curious about bringing their business to Boone County and said, okay, can I find out a little bit more about the statistics of the county and all of that, you would be the place to reach out to if they're curious.
Correct.
And what kind of resources can you provide if someone's looking to relocate or expand?
You name it, we've been asked to provide it. I kind of say I get the just most random questions, and we may not know all the answers, but we can generally find the answers for a company. Usually when a larger company, let's use them as an example, when a larger company is considering either expanding into a different location, they're considering expanding their current facility, they could be relocating from one area into another. Usually workforce is one of the top questions that we're asked. It can depend what they're asking for. So usually we're providing a list of, here are all of the positions that this particular industry may need to fill in this facility. Here are the number of people who are currently employed in Boone County plus our region. Here are what the wages are, and we can dig into median, 10%, 75%, whatever sort of information the company would want. We can just do that deep dive for them. So we start out with workforce. Of course, first and foremost is making sure we actually have an inventory, a place for them to go. Infrastructure is a big part of that. So especially if it's a manufacturer, what size of water line do you have? What size of sewer line? What's your capacity look like? If we need to, if our facility produces these effluents, could your wastewater treatment facility handle that? Just a variety of questions. Some companies want to know more about quality of life. So what sort of amenities do you have? What about restaurants? We have taken companies on tours of neighborhoods so they can get an idea of if, we need 100 homes in the $350,000 to $500,000 range. What does this look like? And we'll show them. So yeah, it really, it's
the whole gambit.
Nothing surprises me anymore. Let's put it that way.
So if someone was wanting to, reach out and say, okay, Molly, we do have a company that's coming in and, the Zionsville Chamber is about 83% small business. And they said, hey, I'm really curious about wanting to put my business somewhere, but I'm not a larger business. I'm a small guy. I have about 4 or 5 employees. What's the EDC help going to look like for me? What can you do in order to give us some more information?
So it depends on really the type of company at that point. So in my world, we use the terms primary employers and Main Street employers. So primary employers is that company that creates a product or service, ships it outside of our boundaries, and brings new money back in. That is our really bread and butter at the EDC, or the primary businesses. Main Street businesses are equally important, and that's more where the chambers can come in and play a role. That is your mom and pop shop that we want to open up a pizza restaurant or ice cream shop. For those companies, we may or may not help them with their site search. Usually they've probably already identified a space on their own. But where we can come in and help them, sometimes they do need the data. Sometimes they just may not understand the area, in which case the data that we can provide or connect them with looks a little bit differently. They're probably not looking at workforce, but they may look at spending patterns in the area. They may look at schools. There's just slightly different factors that they would look at. But we'll, of course, connect them with Zionsville Chamber, with any other resources, just to help them build community, get more involved, have a deeper understanding of how they can elevate their own brand and their image, working in partnership and in tandem with the chamber. And then in some instances, and this just depends on the company, we do have microloan funding available. And we've, of course, pivoted that during the pandemic, but we have historically made microloans available to startups, to existing companies, just to help them get their feet on the ground, show banks that they've got a little more backing than they might have already had.
And that's something that you guys have been doing for a while, but because of the pandemic, you've expanded that program. And now tell us what that program looks like now if someone was wanting to utilize that program.
Yeah, so I mentioned the microloan program. So that started 10 years ago, actually. And when it was started, it was, and this predates me, it was a USDA grant that the Boone EDC received due to I believe it was due to, or what I was told at least, due to population and wage levels or income levels in the Zionsville area. We actually couldn't loan out to anybody in Zionsville. And that it's a problem, but those were the federal regulations. And I mentioned, we would use that for startups. We would use it for up to $15,000. And so what we've done now, we shifted that program because it's no longer federally funded. That money's lost its strings. We're able to go throughout all of Boone County. And it's getting extra loud in my house. Can you hear that?
That's okay. Welcome to working from home.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on out there. Not my problem right now, I suppose. Anyway, back on track. People like to see that we're real, right?
Yep, that's right. Welcome to the real working at home.
Right,
that's how it actually looks.
Yep. So anyway, so what we did when COVID-19 really hit, we temporarily shelved that program. We'll bring it back. It'll still be in existence. It's just an internal switch. We created the Boone County Small Business Emergency Relief Fund. So we took the funds that were left in that account. Unfortunately, was only about $14,000. So we loaned it out to businesses, which was a good thing. But we took what was remaining in that. And then we've gone out and privately and publicly petitioned for additional donations into that account. So now we're sitting at, as of today's the 7th of May, we're sitting at a little more than $140,000 in that account right now.
Incredible.
Yeah. Now of that, 100,000 of that, 50,000 each. 50,000 is for Lebanon business. 50,000 is dedicated to Whitestown businesses because that's where the funding came from. But the remaining roughly 40,000 or so can be loaned out throughout all of Boone County. We loosened the parameters in that program, recognizing that different times, you have to do things differently. And so we are no longer funding startups. The company does have to have some couple years experience. And while I don't necessarily love that, we needed to be able to, it's just an extra risky time all around.
Sure.
And so...
And you could go back to that at another time.
Correct. So startups in the future, as that money's repaid, that money will go back in that microloan account, and then startups could be considered for that as well in the future. But as the program currently stands, existing Boone County businesses, small businesses who employ fewer than 30 people, and they need to have been in business for at least 2 years, can apply for this funding. Funding is up to $10,000, and the terms are pretty flexible. We'll go up to 60 months. If somebody wants a loan of that length, they want to pay it off in 3 months, by all means. And we're offering different rates that they likely different than what they would find maybe from the federal government. And so we have had 2 Zionsville businesses who have received those funds so far. And we're just trying to spread the word that this exists. It can be used creatively. If the company had maybe planned on making some larger capital expenditures, adding on to their building, buying some new equipment, maybe that's just not possible right now because they had to use their reserves during this time, they could apply for the loan to do something like this. If they need to set up an online shop or need to learn how to implement better shipping strategies to prepare for a second wave, for how business will be done in the future, they could use this funding for that. So really the sky's kind of the limit on what that fund could be used for during this time. And the money's good through the loan program. Will have it in effect through the end of this year.
Okay.
We'll determine later, probably late fall, very early winter, if we need to extend that at all. I think there's just so many unknowns at this point that we don't know, but right now the target's through the end of 2020.
Well, and if people have received the loan and they want to pay it back and then something else happens, would they be able to reapply?
So long
Say
as
they've already paid the initial one back.
Yep. So long as they are in good standing with the Boone EDC, by all means. And what I mean by good standing is they're not in default of the loan. But yeah, if they took out $5,000 and they paid it off in 2 months, but they find 4 months down the road they need a little bit more funding, by all means, apply for it again.
Okay. And how many, prior to all the COVID craziness, how many people did you see taking advantage of this microloan program?
So over the 10 years, we've had 12 recipients of that fund. We took that initial $70,000, and as that gets repaid, again, that stays in that microloan fund, does not fund our operations at all. Stays in that microloan fund. We've actually turned that into $140,000 that had been loaned out. Most of those loans were around $15,000. A few were less than that, but most were at that $15,000. And it's funded a variety of types of businesses. So Fun Days in Whitestown was actually a recipient of our microloan fund. We've had a business up in Lebanon, Shark Co. Manufacturing, that they were operating out of their garage and just needed to get their own space, needed some help with machinery. And we funded antique shops in the past. Now with the current guidelines, 2 of the companies that received it in Zionsville, one's a construction company, one is a hair salon. One, it's, some of the challenges, maybe unintended challenges or unintended consequences, hair salons in particular have maybe found during this time is that, in order to make some money, they were selling their inventory. But now that they can start to gradually reopen, will they have enough inventory left over to be able to service their clients now that they can reopen? So can we use that money to help fund a little bit of additional inventory? By all means.
Interesting. So if people wanted to contact you and apply for this, where do they go?
Go to our website. It's just betterinboone.org. And we have a tab. It says COVID-19 resources. And I think we even have a small business economic relief fund graphic that scrolls through. So that information's right there. It's an online application. We try to simplify what we're asking for, but we do still ask for a description of the business. We want to understand who you are, what you do. We do ask for a couple of years worth of financials so we can understand where you have been. And keep it pretty simple. We have a pretty quick turnaround. Our committee meets 2 times a week. So basically whatever gets submitted Monday through Wednesday, we can discuss on Friday, and then vice versa. And that enables us to get that money out the door really quickly and to the people who need it
That's
immediately.
really quick.
Yeah.
Wow. So if people were interested in just finding out more about the EDC, they just go to that same website and reach out to you guys and just say, hey, I really, I love being in Boone County. I love being in the Zionsville area, but I just want more information. So if I'm looking at staying here, growing my business, changing my business somehow, I have better resources available. And I think that's going to be critical for people to know who to go to and where.
Correct. Yeah. They can search through any sort of data we have, but if they need something, they can't find it, ask us. Where we are not really playing in the space a whole lot is with, well, not now, but networking events.
Right.
People are looking for that face-to-face contact or the Zoom calls to connect with one another. We do a little bit of that, but that's mostly what you all do at the chamber. And so that's where if somebody's looking for those connections, see us more of the data, the background, the site selection, potential funding,
Sure.
things like that. But building a lot of relationships locally, and that's incredibly important. That's definitely where we send people over to you guys.
Well, and we've decided to take our tab off of our website that's about employment, and we actually link everyone to yours. Can you talk for a second about your employment section there through the EDC?
Yeah, so last fall, we launched workinboone.com, and it is a free resource for any Boone County employer to participate in. The reason why we started workinboone.com was because the number one asked question we received from the general public was, where can I go to find a job in Boone County? Now, my response was always, you can knock on pretty much any door and everybody's hiring. That was truth. But at the same time, that's not also helpful, right?
Right.
And so, what happened was we were sending people to the state's job bank. We were sending people to Monster and Indeed, and those have places. But quite frankly, I want people living and working in Boone County. I don't care that there are manufacturing jobs available in Indianapolis or IT jobs available in Carmel. I want people to be employed in Zionsville and throughout Boone County. And simultaneously, we were offered a really great marketing opportunity to put our job database on traveling billboards. And I had to turn down the opportunity because we didn't have a platform for them. So we created Work in Boone. It is not a Monster or an Indeed where job listings are available. We don't have the capacity to be able to maintain that sort of listing. But what it is there's a map of Boone County. Individuals can search by manufacturing, retail, agriculture, information technology, and pull up a list of the employers in Boone County, and then it connects them directly with where they can go to learn more about the company and apply for jobs there. And so we have more than 150 Boone County companies that participate on that website. And then what we've done during this time, understanding so many people are out of work, and we created a separate search function for those that are currently hiring during this pandemic. And so that way people don't have to search through all 150 job listings to see where they could potentially go for a job. So we have identified, again, as of the 7th of May, we've identified more than 570 currently open positions in Boone County.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Given the number that we see on unemployment, it most certainly does not mean that everybody who's on unemployment in Boone County could get a job, but it means a big chunk could, in theory. There's a variety of factors there, right? So either way, that's readily available. So if there are any employers, small or large, it really doesn't matter. We have small businesses that are on there that they only need to find one person. They participate on there. At the very least, even if you're not currently hiring, it's just a good opportunity to get your name out there. That here we are in Boone County, and this is what we do, because I think so many people don't. You drive through drive through Northwest Tech Park in Zionsville or the Lebanon Business Park. You have no idea what those companies do, who they are. So it's a good opportunity to just teach people what's out there.
And those are free resources for both the job seeker and the person posting the job.
Yep.
Excellent. So they would just go to Work in Boone if they wanted to post a job, put information in about their company, and they would be up and available for people to see those jobs within probably the day?
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Excellent. Because right now we've actually heard a number of companies who are looking for CNAs and nurses, and are looking for people who are interested in working. And just because there was already a shortage within that segment of the industry, people are struggling with where to go and where to find qualified individuals.
Yeah, it was the unemployment data that has been coming out. Of course, it's delayed, so we don't have a full picture yet of even what April looks like. But for 1 week in late March, early April, what I found really interesting, one of the areas that was hardest hit with unemployment was actually healthcare and social services, which actually aligned with the industry that was also most in need of workers. Now, some of that data has changed over the past couple of weeks, but that is a kind of an interesting trend that I've noticed that, we had some layoffs in logistics and manufacturing, but or logistics and distribution, but there's still an awful lot of positions, FedEx and Zionsville being one of them, awful lot of people who are still hiring in that particular industry. So yeah, it's been interesting to look at.
Well, it's just a matter of folks also knowing where they can find the jobs.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate this today, because this will be really good information for people to be able to share and utilize. Like I said, within our website, we're making sure that we link to yours if folks are looking for a place to post or look for a position. So, anything else you want to add before we end our little meeting?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this will be good for folks to hear, because I truly don't believe that they are as familiar with the EDC as we would like for them to be, and understand all the resources that they have available. So thank you.
Thank you.